Hello, everyone. So this is a session that I basically presented last week at the API Days Paris. Um, I wanted to do a recording for those that either joined late or couldn't make it, or those that couldn't go to the show and wanted to hear about, all the exciting stuff. I think most of the presenters have actually recorded some of the sessions to give insights. So this is going to be probably around 20-25 minutes tops. I thought it would be interesting to record this and share with the network. So I hope you'll find this interesting. So what's the topic? Basically, as you know, we specialize in white label channel management. And we wanted to kind of bust the myth of commoditization of the channel management, as we hear a lot that many products in the industry, in the travel tech, are becoming commoditized. And we thought it would be interesting to dig into the details, kind of look under the hood, and show that it's not so easy, and it can be sometimes a bit complex to do what we do. So I will not dig into extremely technical speech and topics, but I think it's good to understand what's behind the scene and under the hood. So I hope you will enjoy this. So beyond the pipes, why channel management isn't really commoditized. So just a quick snapshot of what we'll be covering. So first, a quick understanding of what people think channel management is and has been, to be completely honest. Looking a little bit at the market evolution, I've been in this space for about 17 years now, and I always find it very nice to share the what we've seen over those years. For those, at least, those that have been in this industry, but maybe not in this ecosystem, or those that just joined the industry a few years back and have not had the chance to actually live through everything that's happened since the early 2000s. Um, then we'll look into more details. Obviously, we'll look into what's actually going through those pipes, what's flowing, and how complex it can be. And then we'll take a quick case study on the seamless experience from booking.com and just jump to a couple of takeaways. So about me, I'm the head of sales, global head of sales at Sue. Sue is a brand of Star. We do white labeling of channel management and booking engine. Star is based in New Zealand, and we were acquired last year by the Access Group. So we are now all the Access Group company, software house based in the UK. I believe over 9,000 people now. And we at Star and Sue, we mostly focus on building technology for hotels and also travel tech partners, whether we sell direct at Star Max and we sell B2B2C at Sue as a private label solution. So, what's the understanding of channel management today? Very simplistic graph, but to be completely honest, this is what it was when I joined back quite a few years back. Property management system, so a PMS, which I like to call the source of truth, which is connecting to either a booking engine or a channel manager feeding into the other. So basically, property management to a booking engine feeding into a channel manager, or a property management system feeding into a channel manager that feeds into a booking engine that is considered an additional channel. The difference between the two, booking engine is the direct distribution, channel management is indirect distribution. Even though you still have meta channels in a channel manager that will redirect to the booking engine and website, which is direct sales. But that's the main understanding of the ecosystem of a channel manager, which, to be honest, is still true today. There are still some connections that are extremely simple. PMS feeding into a channel manager, communicating two ways, pushing availability rate and restrictions one way, and getting reservations the other way, and basically syncing all channels together to avoid overbookings, and any issues linked to multiple connections. So this is still true today, but it goes much beyond this when you start digging into the technology. So now looking at the market evolution, we took three specific dates, 2000, 2010, 2020, to show the evolution of the past 20 years, 25 years. But to be completely fair, since 2020, at least when we talk about PMS websites, booking engines, and channel manager, I think we've reached an almost fully equipped ecosystem. Now, I think what's coming up is more about um, cloud solutions, connected solutions, and we won't touch that. We won't touch that. Um, so basically, 2000, channel management wasn't a thing. Why? Because even Booking.com wasn't a thing. I think Booking.com came up late 90s, became a thing in 2001 with acquisitions and so on. And basically, OTAs started emerging after the era of what I like to call TOTAs, tour operating and travel agents. Basically, OTAs became a thing with the internet, so early 2000. So basically, you're looking at the ecosystem. Yes, there was some technology, but not so much. I mean, booking engines were kind of a shy thing. Websites started emerging, people not quite understanding why they needed to do this, and channel management wasn't a thing. But then you look at 10 years later and you see most hotels understood they needed a PMS, they needed a website, they need a booking engine, and obviously because of direct sales that don't cost a commission, and channel management. Why? Because hotels started having one, two, three, four channels to feed in, and obviously needed to automate and avoid overbooking. So that's one of the reasons. And if you look 10 years later, 2020, obviously you start getting to a point where you're 90 plus percent on all what I like to call it all in one, the structure, the base, PMS, booking engine, channel manager, and obviously the website that goes along. Of course, there is a lot more to it. Now we see a lot more AI automation, cloud solutions such as revenue management systems, guest reviews, and so on. So I'm not going to touch this, but basically wanted to have a quick look at the evolution of the tech because in 20 years, we went almost from nothing to everything, at least when it comes to channel management, for a very good reason. The distribution has become a lot more complex. So once we've said that, let's look into what's actually flowing through those pipes. Okay, so I want to start with basically my vision, and that may be only my vision. I hope some agree with me, but I think there were two eras of channel manager. The first generation, which was mostly ARI based, availability rate and restrictions, where we would basically focus on availability and rates, limited rate plans because most OTAs were room based. Even length of stay didn't exist, at least through the APIs. Price occupancy-based pricing was not a big thing. I mean, yes, in some specific industries, but not at least not managed through APIs. And there were a lot of overbooking risk because of the technology that was used. The eCal, the scrapping. I mean, I remember all this. The little bots that would log in and basically kind of mimic a human being. I mean, that was very, very unreliable. There were not that many channels. A lot of mapping, manual mapping involved from the PMS to the channel manager, from the channel manager to the OTA, many points of updates, and also not a single source of truth. If you had a booking engine, you could do everything manually. You could do everything manually in the PMS and so on. So first era to me, which was a first foot into the technology, but still. And that lasted at least until 2010, 2015. But then I think we've switched in the last at least 5 to 10 years into a new era, what I like to call the modern type of channel manager, which is more content rich. And that came with also all the APIs that are available now from the OTAs. And if you take the top three channels, let's say Booking, Expedia, and Airbnb, they've come up with a lot more APIs. content, promotions, reviews, messaging. Everything is centralized. We're more full content focused. Dynamic pricing. Now, with Booking.com, for example, we have room-based, occupancy-based, length of stay, many more channels as well that we can do that with. Thousands of channels. I mean, at Sue, we have 2,000 plus. Um, this didn't exist before. So obviously, you need to upgrade the technology that is being used and a lot more automation. I'm not going to go through the whole list. You have it on the screen, but basically, even the technology has actually improved. Now we're going AWS, serverless. We have API throttling, load balancing, a lot of technology that allows for a lot more information to go through those pipes. So also one of those things, one of the reasons why we were able to do this is the technology itself. I remember, open the OTA standards, Open Travel Alliance. That was XML. Now XML, yes, it's still used, but we've switched to JSON a while ago because it's just 3 to 4 times lighter, a lot easier, a lot more friendly, cloud friendly. So that's one of the reasons why we also can do what we do today. But not just that, going from core PHP to Laravel, for example, we went from more of a kind of spaghetti code to a more structured MVC architecture that is a lot cleaner and it enables us to actually build wider projects, structure the data, and so on. And then the last, basically going from Angular to React. Also, React being kind of a Lego game, you can also work a lot easier, and at least it's more suited for our industry. But all this is enabling us to do what we are able to achieve today in terms of technology. Okay. So now looking into a bit more, under the hood, and I thought an iceberg graph would be suited for this. Why? Because there's what you see and there's what you can't see. We have over 30 APIs today that are available, but then what do you see really in this game? Mostly the top 5 APIs that we actually offer, and that's actually because we are fully API driven. But if you had a connection to between a PMS and a booking engine, or a PMS and a channel manager, it's not even that much. You would manage content, you would manage rates, availability, and probably reservations. You wouldn't even have to push the property, room types, and rate plans because you can actually create them manually in the extranet. We are fully API driven, so we push it even further than the average, and that's not much, right? But then if you keep looking, what's still, popular but not so visible? All the mapping APIs we offer, the review APIs, messaging APIs, all the reporting of no-shows, of invalid credit cards, inventory rate control that gives a lot finer, more granular management of rates and availability per channels. And that's a second step. That's what we recommend partners to build, but they don't always do it because that's additional work. But this is those are things that we weren't able to do maybe 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago was more difficult. But now all those APIs are available. And so we can build and we can automate a lot more. And actually, this is even more true for the short-term rental, because as you may know, managing hundreds or thousands of units is a lot more complicated to set up than having to onboard hotels that are 50 to 100 rooms. So that actually has helped move the technology further. And then there's a whole lot more that comes up. And actually here we have about 15, 17, and maybe on the screen, we have twice as many available. So that just gives you the extent of what can be done. Those gate APIs, for example, that you see at the bottom left, they are APIs that help partners come and fetch data. If they need to fetch data and bring it into their system. They can check currently mapped OTAs for specific properties. They can see a list of properties mapped to a specific OTA. We can send logs to partners on all kind of aspects, updates, failures, those kind of things. We have resync functions, a lot more than what we used to have. And obviously all the content APIs, request bookings, those kind of things that are, additional features that have popped up honestly in the last few years. So a lot more is available, but it's important to see how far we can go. And honestly, I think we're not at the end of it, but there is a lot more than just sending availability and rates, for sure. So let's look into a case study, seamless experience from Booking.com. And we were the first ones to actually accomplish that project. We did it in partnership with a PMS partner based in China. And I want to go through, challenges and how we solved this and basically what came out of this. Basically, the challenge was pretty straightforward and simple. We wanted to automate the onboarding, reduce the time to market, and improve the customer experience. Basically, when you're looking at new markets, and especially China being kind of, in its own world, for Booking.com, we needed to have some automation. We needed to make it much simpler for hotels to be willing to test, right? So that's what the kind of challenge we were trying to tackle. Okay, how did we do it? Well, build tons of new APIs. We had to do it in a very short time, so this was very, very sensitive. And when I spoke to my lead developer, he was very clear that this was quite a job, but we made it. And then basically built also a fully embedded widget that goes into the PMS with a lot of additional functionalities that I'll show you in the next screen. But basically, we allowed for a full process end to end for the PMS to be able to onboard properties, etc., from their PMS directly. And we added a little bit of AI. I think this is something I'll touch on in the takeaways, but we are starting, we are using a lot of AI internally. We are using AI for developers, for operations as a group at Access. But we are also starting to use AI for the customers, for the users, because it can solve a lot of issues. It can automate a lot of process. It's becoming extremely efficient. And we are really looking at how we can optimize that. What's the outcome? Very simply, we reduced the onboarding from 7 to 2 days for a new property. And I mentioned new property, meaning a property that doesn't even have a contract with Booking.com. And basically, we built a PMS to OTA setup using a white label. There's no back office used for the property, so they don't need to log into the OTA. They don't even need to log into the channel manager. They basically do everything from the PMS that goes into the OTA and vice versa. So when we say seamless experience, it's end to end. And we managed to give those tools to build that process fully embedded into the PMS. And obviously, I just mentioned it, but we were the first partner deployed globally, so we're pretty proud of that. But the seamless experience is a great improvement. So we were very happy to work on that. So what does it look like? Basically, we built what we like to call a self-serve mapping widget, simplified, very straightforward, where you basically use the ID of the property, just punch a couple of numbers in there. And if you don't have a contract, basically you can onboard directly from the system. And this is the screen we built, where in a 5-step process, you can go through the contract, the profile, cancellation policies, rooms, and then charges. And basically you can send everything to Booking.com and basically wait 24 to 48 hours to get the confirmation and be able to set up your property and push availability, room types, rate plans, availability rates and restrictions, and go live. So a couple days. And you even have a screen to check the status of your request. So if you made a request, it's been 1-2 days, you can go back in, check the status, see if it's still pending, you can resend contract information, etc. So great improvement, because a lot of properties, especially when it comes to new OTAs, they don't really know how to handle. And that basically enable for a much more seamless process. Okay. So in a nutshell, basically 70% faster onboarding, 30 plus APIs built. Um, we dropped by half all the onboarding queries, also thanks to AI customization. So things are a lot more straightforward. And now we have a seamless, reliable onboarding, which was for some very cumbersome, fully embedded into the PMS. So the PMS basically is benefiting from this, but they didn't have to build that much. I mean, yes, they had to build some of it because obviously you're communicating between the PMS and the platform to be able to push. But one of the good thing is they're not just using Booking.com. They're also connecting to Expedia, to other channels, which, is basically helping them centralize, but with minimal work. So what are the takeaways? Because I'm getting to the end of the time. So we have four. First, one thing that is clear, absolutely clear, innovation thrives in incremental evolution, not just disruption. And I think it's true in many cases. I mean, we always talk about new technology, early adopters, and how the first ones to come with an innovation on a product on a product are hardly ever the ones that actually benefit from it. True. Many examples in this world, but there are many ways to actually keep innovating on existing products. Just by changing a few things. We do private label. We offer technology to tech providers in the travel tech industry. Depending on how you do it, it can be seen as innovation. And like I just mentioned, white label and automation becomes a private label transformation. Basically, we have taken white label concepts, we've automated a lot, we've embedded a lot, we really take the technology and transform it so that we make it a private label. And that embeds completely into the system of the partner. So we can allow partners, even large partners that don't want anyone to know that they are using an external solution, they can work with us, they can come to us and use our technology completely in a confidential way. And that's important because when you're developing on new markets, you can be a US leader. When you want to go to Asia, if you don't have any hotels, you're nobody with them, right? Many OTAs actually don't accept direct connects anymore. There's a couple of top channels today in this world that will not accept new partner connection, except for exceptions. But I mean, most of them, many of them don't. One thing that I see, I've been in this industry a bit less than 20 years, but 25 years in, channel management is more essential than ever. Why? Because this world has become even more complex. Distribution channel mixes are extremely hard to build. Lots of niche markets, lots of local channels, lots of top OTAs as well. And we used to say, oh, with the top 3 channels, you get 80% of the business. I would say maybe it's still true, but one thing that's true, you don't want 80% of the business, you want 100%. And how do you get 100%? By adding channels, by making sure that you actually go the extra step. And then the last takeaway, AI. I mean, at Access, we like to say supercharged with AI. Well, honestly, this is something that we thrive to do on a regular basis. We have included AI in our daily operations, but we also are looking at how we can use Gen AI to supercharge our customers' operations, our partners' operations, by providing mapping screens that are a lot more automated, a lot smarter, to save time, to save errors as well. Human interaction means errors, and there's not so much we can do about it. So there's probably a lot more to channel management in the years to come, thanks to Gen AI, and we're actually looking into it. And maybe next year, in a couple of years, I'll come back and show you all this. Thank you, everyone. If you need to connect or to get in touch, here are some information. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I thank you so much for taking the time to check it out.